Have you been feeling a shift lately? Does it seem like we are heading towards something? Aleister Crowley used the concept of what he called aeons, or age, in order to explain where humanity was at throughout different times. Carl Jung had a similar framework that he called aeons as well, just spelled a little differently. Ian Ferguson, aka the White Lotus of Light, is another that I have studied quite extensively who uses Vedic astrology to describe these same states of consciousness throughout time. Ian Ferguson and the Vedics believe that on March 3rd of 2025, we enter a Yuga shift. A Yuga shift refers to a transition between the four cyclical ages or yugas in Hindu cosmology, the Satya, Treta, Dvapara, and the Kali. According to Ferguson and the Vedics, March 3rd starts a 300-year shift into a new realm of consciousness. He describes this shift as moving into the Luciferian consciousness from a Malachian one. Let's go even further. Using these concepts from Crowley, Jung, and Ferguson, we can see where humanity is at, for lack of a better term, and where it is going. We can also use the zodiac as a template to explore this in a deeper, more westernized way. This term is called an astrological age. Astrological ages are long periods that are roughly 2,000 to 2,500 years, during which a particular zodiac sign is believed to be the dominant influence on the world. We are going to use various mythologies, philosophies, and even magic systems in order to make sense of this shift. But to look forward, we must first look back. The Age of Taurus, roughly 4,300 BCE to 2,160 BCE. During this age, we see the emergence of gods like Zeus, transforming a magnificent white bull to abduct Europa, a Phoenician princess. We also see gods like Aphrodite or Venus, who represent earthly luxury and beauty. Taurus being an earth sign. Interestingly, Taurus is ruled by the planet Venus as well, and from here we move forward into the Age of Aries. The Age of Aries, roughly 2160 BCE to 0 AD. This is also known as the Age of Moloch. We see the emergence of many pagan horned gods, such as Baal/Moloch. We also see the Celtic god of the hunt, Cernunnos, or the Greco god Pan, which may have been a precursor to the Christian devil, with his worshippers being labeled as witches. This is where we literally get the devil horn aesthetic that Satan is typically portrayed as. The Age of Pisces is roughly 0 AD to 2000 AD. We are here. From here, we moved into Pisces, where Christianity took reign. Pisces is represented by the two fish swimming opposite of one another. Christ had the miracle of feeding the 5,000 multitude. Matthew 14, 13 through 21, with fish. Christ walked on water, as did Peter for a moment. Pisces being a water sign, showing that Christ would conquer this age, as would his church that was built upon the back of Peter, the rock of the church. And this is for a moment, just how he walked on water for a moment, right? Christ was also a carpenter. His mission to literally have his church built throughout the world, which absolutely happened. Christ was also an incarnation of God himself who became man, a concept very heavy and laden with symbolism. All these examples are both metaphorical and literal. Quantum, as I would call it, but that is a topic for another time. Now remember, these dates are not entirely exact, okay? We are still, many different people have different ideas as to where we are exactly, but we are also in the Age of Aquarius. So we are transitioning from Pisces to Aquarius right now. So roughly 2000 AD to 4000 AD. There are people who believe we transferred into the Age of Aquarius in like the 1900s, early 1900s. So we are fully transitioning into the Age of Aquarius, an air sign represented by a woman with a pitcher of water that she is pouring out. The water traditionally represents knowledge, but I ponder perhaps she is pouring out the water of the previous age of Pisces. Aquarius, ruled by Uranus, is associated with technology, innovation, and forward-thinking ideas. reflecting a natural affinity for the digital age and a desire for a more interconnected world. Things like Wi-Fi really showcase this air elemental typology of Aquarius very well. Lucifer is described as the Lord of the Air, or the Spirit of the Air, associating him further with the element of air and enlightenment. Interesting how this converges seamlessly with what Ian Ferguson believes. Aleister Crowley dubbed the aeon that we are moving into the Aeon of Horus, which is represented by a crowned child. The child represents the self, the human that is striving for its own betterment for the sake of betterment. We look to Nietzsche's Übermensch, a concept representing a future evolved human ideal who transcends traditional morality and creates their own values, driven by a will to power and an affirmation of life, the true Luciferian, i.e., someone who worships the self, the ego. The ego is Lucifer. This is not a Satanist. These are not the same thing, and these are not even remotely close. But interesting how Crowley's idea of the aeon we are moving into is touching upon the same themes of enlightenment, self-actualization through technology, etc. We are in the aeon that believes itself to be moving past the Christian morality and the Christ in the aeon of Pisces gave us. This draws up an interesting notion, though. What will come of those who reject these aeonic archetypes? Scenario 1. Regressive enunciation of the aeon. What does a child do when it is not moving forward towards its enlightenment and self-realization? Simple. It regresses. Much like the millennial who collects Funko Pops or eagerly plays his Nintendo Switch while mommy makes his tendies with some Honey Mussy. This regression actually, and literally, is the crowned child reaching up towards its mother, the Aquarius woman, asking to be held in place of the jug of water that is being poured out. This means the jug is set down and the water is never poured. The Aquarian mother obliges the crowned child, and this regression actually takes the individual back into the age of Aries. This individual is sacrificing themselves to the devouring mother, a Jungian archetype that consumes the being of the regressed crowned child. They have given up their very soul for their mother's comfort, and it fully engulfs their human spirit, much like the sacrificing of a child to Moloch in ancient days. Scenario 2, rejecting the crown. The other scenario is more typical of that of the Christian, one who looks to Christ and the way he operated, i.e., looking at the classic "what would Jesus do" binary philosophy. This becomes a template for the individual's life. They are the child who chooses to reject the crown and in turn never fully grow into what they could fully be as a human. They never become fully enlightened while on earth. They never become fully self-realized due to them choosing to not react to stimuli in any meaningful way. Why would they have to? Christ did it all for them. They default to a Christian binary, and they never think, they never ponder, why would Jesus do what Jesus would do? This child bathes in the Piscetic water that is being poured out by the Aquarian mother, fully enveloping themselves into a simple mode of being and quite literally baptizing themselves free from sin through Christ, but also from what makes us inherently human. Thought. Scenario 3. A secret third thing. This is where you want to be. You are the child who embraces the crown. You adorn it to your head, realizing that it is God-given. You place it on your head knowing that it is your ancestors who help you to make sure it looks good on your head. You look to the past, rejecting the comfortable but devouring embrace that the Aquarian mother could give you. Eternal and endless honey mussy tendies, baby. You bathe in the Piscetic waters, understanding what Christ has done and how his church has changed human history, for better and at times for worse. You become a man of faith, but one of reasoning faith, one that thinks and understands where it is and where it comes from. You understand the overcoming of the beastly paganry of the age of Aries, but you acknowledge that it is always right there under the surface of your own humanity. You know that Christ is going to save you, yet you work and master yourself as if he is not. This is what I call the Christian will to power. It is my spin on Nietzsche's will to power. Nietzsche mistakes meekness for weakness, whereas Christian meekness is choosing wisely when to exert one's will and when not to. Meekness is having a sword but not using it. Christ's death transcends the aeonic timeline, delivering us from it if we so choose. God became man and he died for us. The timeless put himself into time itself, thus making those who choose him untouchable by the very aeon they are existing within. However, we are still man. We must still live. We must still strive. We must look to entertain God and become all that we truly can be by us for him. Saint Francis of Assisi believed prayer is a way of being. Your life is a prayer, and by living it, you are gifting it to God, which means you better be doing things right. This is the Meta-Aeon of Lucifer, the convergence of all aforementioned mythos, philosophies, magic systems, and zodiac studies. This is where one must understand that growing from a crowned child into a fully actualized crowned man is realizing the crown is not what makes one adorned. Lucifer wanted to become God, but we are to understand what it means to be of God by becoming the best versions of ourselves and asking ourselves, why would Jesus do? Now, a lot of people have been asking me to do Project Oracle, to bring it back. If you've been here since the beginning, I've done esoteric videos, and really, it's a lot of work. It's very energetically draining. And frankly, I didn't want to take the time to do it right, but here it is. I'm going to do this one, and I'm going to do it real esoterically, not just like, oh, tarot, Gnostic. No, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. So here it is. Project Oracle. This is like the official first one. If you'd like, there is a link below where you could go to my Substack where I have the full essays that I'm going to read. I also want to say I don't like Aleister Crowley at all. I really, really don't like him. I think he's a freak, but I feel like using his philosophy and his thoughts in order to gain a new perspective on what I'm trying to say is insanely powerful in my opinion. There is no better way to understand one's own theological beliefs than to hear the criticism of them. And I was a massive Nietzschean in college. I have a degree in philosophy, by the way. I have a big bookshelf of philosophy books right here. But I was a huge Nietzschean. I was an existentialist. I loved the French Sartre, blah, 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 blah. But as you can tell, I'm a Christian now. So I think that there is a lot of amazing stuff that Nietzsche does. I really do enjoy it. But I think that Nietzsche doesn't take that last step, and the transcendental doesn't get us to where it should, which is through Christ. So those are my thoughts. If you liked this, go to my Substack. You can read these. I'm going to be posting them a lot. Go to my Patreon, patreon.com/IzzyandGriffin. I have tons of stuff there. I'm kind of trying to branch out and do more things that I feel are a little more artistic and that I can express myself a little bit better.